right, so we're diving into this book today, and it's making some pretty bold claims.
Yeah, like it's the ultimate guide for guys to like marry up, you know.
Marry above their station, he actually says.
Above their station, right. So we're going to break down like what it says about dating these days, pulling from evolution and social dynamics and even economic.
Yeah, it brings in all these different angles.
It does really tries to paint this whole picture of dating like it's some kind of complex game.
Almost like a jungle, right?
Yeah, exactly, like a jungle with its own rules and like who has the power.
And it even suggests that modern society is basically a gynocracy.
Yeah, where women have more power in the dating market.
Interesting.
It is.
So it dives into these trends that we're seeing, like ghosting and benching and breadcrumbing.
Oh yeah, all that stuff.
You were telling me about being benched one time, remember?
Oh, don't remind me.
But the book actually references an article from The Atlantic that talks about how all this can mess with people's heads, making them feel rejected and inadequate.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then it brings in some research from BMC Psychology, suggesting that the whole swiping culture on dating apps might be making it harder to really connect with people.
Yeah, because you're just like focusing on looks.
Right, prioritizing looks over personality.
Exactly.
Now there's this whole section on pornography,
Oh, okay.
and it cites a Kinsey Institute survey that found that a pretty high percentage of both men and women watch porn regularly.
Interesting.
The book kind of suggests that this could be feeding into unrealistic expectations and maybe even leading to dysfunction in relationship.
What do you think about that?
I mean, it definitely raises some questions about how porn is impacting how we see intimacy and relationship.
Yeah, in this digital age, right?
Yeah, in this digital age.
Where everything's so accessible.
It's a complex issue.
It is, for sure.
So the book then jumps into this whole evolutionary biology angle,
Okay.
leaning heavily on Darwin's concept of sexual selection.
Survival of the fittest kind of thing.
Well, yeah, it's arguing that men and women evolved different mating strategies because of survival instinct.
Makes sense.
It does.
I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense.
It says that attraction is not just about looks.
Right, there's more to it.
It's about those cues that signal genetic fitness and the ability to provide and protect.
Like a strong jawline.
Yeah, a strong jawline.
Symmetry, waist to hip ratio.
All those things.
Yeah, those are all highlights.
As attractive traits from an evolutionary perspective.
So it's like ingrained in us, you know,
Yeah.
from way back when.
Yeah, so then it gets into this thing called the Coolidge effect.
No, I have never heard of that.
I hadn't either before reading this book, but basically it's the biological urge for sexual variety,
Oh.
especially in males.
So guys are more prone to wanting variety.
That's what the book argues. And it says that this inherent drive can clash with the whole monogamy thing
Well, that's interesting.
because, you know, in modern society, monogamy is like the ideal.
Yeah,
you know?
it's what we're supposed to strive for.
So it's trying to reconcile these biological urges with societal expectation.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
I mean, how do you balance those two things?
So then it gets into this concept called hypergamy.
Okay, what's that?
Buckle up, because this is where it gets interesting.
All right, I'm ready.
It claims that women are wired to seek out partners of higher social status.
Higher social status.
Yeah, whether that's for resources or protection or just social standing.
So it's saying women are naturally attracted to men who are like more successful or powerful.
Basically, yeah. And it even uses this economic analogy, comparing dating to a marketplace.
Oh, okay.
Where high value men are in high demand but in short supply.
Like a rare commodity.
Exactly. So according to the book, men need to understand this dynamic of hypergamy if they want to succeed in the dating game.
So, I mean, if that's how it works, you got to know the rules of the game, right?
Right. And it argues that by recognizing and adapting to this inherent female behavior, men can increase their chances of finding a partner.
So it's not about fighting against it, it's about understanding it.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Interesting.
And it goes on to say that this preference for higher status men is actually rooted in our evolutionary past.
Since back then, women needed a partner who could protect them and provide for their kids.
Exactly. Ensure the survival of their offspring.
Right. It was all about survival.
So the book is basically trying to connect our biological impulses with our social behavior.
Especially in the context of dating and relationships.
Exactly.
That's really fascinating.
Then it takes this concept of hierarchy and applies it to social dynamic,
Okay, I'm following.
saying that just like in the animal kingdom, human relationships are also governed by these power structures.
So there's always like a pecking order.
That's what it's suggesting. Yeah.
Interesting.
And it even goes so far as to say that men should strive for leadership positions to increase their attractiveness.
So it's not just about money, it's about being a leader.
Exactly. About being competent and having influence.
Makes sense. I mean, people are naturally drawn to leaders.
And it ties this back to the importance of building a strong social network of male friends.
Like a brotherhood.
Yeah, it uses that term brotherhood.
Because guys need to support each other.
It argues that this is essential for both personal growth and romantic prospects.
Yeah, having a strong support system is important.
Absolutely.
So are we getting to the controversial stuff now?
I think we're about to, yeah.
Okay, hit me with it.
So the book straight up criticizes the push for gender equality.
Whoa. Okay.
It argues that it's led to a lack of respect for men's strengths and the unique challenges they face.
Interesting. So it's pushing back against that narrative?
It is. And it even goes on to say that men are stuck in this double bind where they're expected to be the traditional provider, but also emotionally available.
And that's a tough balance.
It argues that it is.
I can see how that would be difficult.
And then it critiques the feminist narrative.
Okay, how so?
It suggests that it's created a division between the sexes and painted men as predators, making it harder to form meaningful connections.
So it's saying feminism has actually made things harder for men in some ways.
That's the argument, yeah. And it even suggests that men are often shamed for not being vulnerable enough.
But then when they do open up, they're seen as weak.
Exactly. It's like they can't win.
It's a tough spot to be in.
It is.
Yeah.
And the book seems to be speaking to a certain segment of men who feel misunderstood in the current social and cultural climate.
I can see that.
So then it delves into this whole philosophy of stoicism.
Okay, interesting shift.
It advocates for men to adopt its principles of emotional control and resilience.
So, like, being more stoic in the face of rejection or disagreement.
Exactly. Not letting your emotions get the best of you.
That's a valuable skill for sure.
It is. And it encourages men to build inner strength through things like meditation, journaling, and setting personal challenges.
It was about self-improvement.
Yeah, about becoming the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And it even links stoicism back to nature, suggesting that accepting traditional gender roles is in line with the natural order of things.
So it's tying it back to that evolutionary perspective.
Exactly, it's all connected.
This book really covers a lot of ground.
It does, and we're just getting started.
All right, let's keep going. I want to hear more about this dating advice it's got.
Okay, let's get into it.
It also tells guys not to, like, try too hard to impress women.
So no more bending over backwards.
Yeah, basically, like, high-value women are going to be into guys who are already self-assured,
Got it.
you know, not looking for validation.
So how should men talk to women, according to this book?
Well, it says you got to master both, like, what you say and how you say it.
Okay, so body language and all that.
Exactly, like strong eye contact.
Mirroring.
Yeah, mirroring her body language, even like casual touches to see how comfortable she is. So reading those subtle signals.
Yeah, it's all about those subtle signals.
Got it.
But it also says being a good listener is super important.
Okay, that makes sense. Like asking those open-ended questions, you know? Sharing interesting stories, remembering little details about her.
To make her feel seen, heard.
Exactly. Seen, appreciated.
What about being upfront about your intention?
Oh yeah, no more beating around the bush. The book is all about honesty and direct.
Even when you're telling her you're interested.
Especially then, it says that's like the best way to avoid misunderstandings.
It also talks about storytelling, right?
Yes.
So,
It encourages men to tell those personal stories that kind of reveal their character, but in a way that's relevant to the conversation, you know.
keep her.
Exactly. You got to keep it engaged.
Okay, what about physical intimacy? Does the book get into that?
Does, but it stresses that it should be gradual and consensual. You know, starting with light touches, paying attention to her body language.
Respecting your boundaries.
Absolutely. Respecting her boundaries at all times.
So reading the signs, not rushing things.
Exactly. It's about building that trust.
Making her feel comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable and empowered.
The book seems to really emphasize confidence.
It does. And it even ties it back to having a strong purpose in life.
So it's not just about swagger. It's about knowing who you are, what you want.
Yeah. Pursuing your goals with passion, that kind of thing.
And high-value women are drawn to that.
They are. The book says they can spot a guy with purpose a mile away.
So how do you cultivate that kind of confidence, according to the book?
It's about personal development on all levels. Fitness is a big one.
So hitting the gym is about more than just looking good.
Yeah, it's about feeling good, about having discipline. It shows you care about yourself.
Signals good genes too, right?
That's what it says.
And it talks about the benefits of exercise, how it improves your mood, reduces stress.
Makes you more adventurous even.
Yeah, open to new experiences.
Exactly. And it also suggests joining fitness groups.
Not just for the workout buddy,
No, for the social aspect too, building that network.
which ties back to that whole brotherhood thing.
Yeah, surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
Okay, so the book doesn't just focus on dating. It gets into marriage too.
It does, and it gets pretty real about it.
Yeah, it's not all hearts and flowers.
No, it emphasizes that marriage is a legal agreement.
With serious implications.
Exactly, like you got to be prepared.
It even suggests considering a prenup.
Which can be, a touchy subject.
For sure.
The book says it's not about planning for divorce.
It's about being realistic.
Yeah, about protecting yourself.
What about in-laws?
Oh, it talks about those too.
Because that could be a whole other minefield.
Right. The book stresses how important it is to manage those relationships, setting boundaries.
Putting your partner first.
Yeah, putting your partner and your little family above all else.
It even uses that movie Meet the Parents as an example of how things can go wrong.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
Hilariously wrong.
It is, but it's a good reminder to be respectful, but also have those healthy boundaries.
The book then circles back to its critique of cultural influence.
Okay, what does it say this time?
Well, it argues that the whole concept of toxic masculinity is a harmful stereotype.
Unfairly shames men.
Exact. And it criticizes the pressure on men to be vulnerable.
Because it can be seen as weakness.
Yeah, it's like they're damned if they do, damned if they don't.
It's a tough spot to be in, for sure.
So let's move on to kids.
Okay, what's the book's take on that?
It acknowledges that having kids has a massive impact.
On careers, lifestyle, your whole relationship.
Everything changes.
Yeah, it encourages couples to really talk about whether they want kids.
And to be honest about their expectations.
Yeah, because it's a huge decision.
And it even acknowledges the growing trend of couples choosing to be child-free.
It does. That's cool.
Yeah, it presents it as a valid choice.
Because it is. It's your life.
And it emphasizes the importance of finding a partner who's on the same page.
Absolutely. You got to be aligned on that.
The book also talks about deal breakers.
Those non-negotiables.
Exactly, things you just can't compromise on.
It says you should figure those out early on.
To avoid resentment later.
Yeah, no one wants to be stuck in a relationship where their needs aren't being met.
And then there's money, another big one.
Always a big one.
The book stresses financial stability and open communication about finances.
So no more secrets about spending.
It advocates for setting financial goals together, creating a budget.
Being transparent.
Exactly. It even suggests having regular money dates.
Money dates.
Yeah, to talk about finance.
That's a good idea. I like that.
It can prevent a lot of arguments.
For sure.
It also encourages men to think about the financial side of having kids.
Buying a house, retirement, all that.
Yeah, all the big stuff.
It's about being responsible, planning for the future.
And making sure you're both financially secure.
That's important.
It is.
So are we about to get into the dark side of relationships now?
Yeah, things take a bit of a darker turn.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
The book explores the potential for things to go wrong.
What kind of things?
It talks about gaslighting, emotional manipulation, infidelity, even abuse. Whoa, that's heavy stuff.
It is, but it's important to be aware of these things.
Absolute knowledge is power.
It encourages men to recognize the red flags.
To know when to walk away.
Exact, and to set clear boundaries.
And to get help if you need it.
Yeah, the book stresses the importance of seeking professional help if you're in a toxic or abusive relationship.
It can be hard to see things clearly when you're in the middle of it.
It's true, and the book even talks about the psychological impact of these negative experiences.
So it's not just about the physical stuff, it's about the emotional damage too.
Right. It's a reminder that relationships can be amazing, but they can also be really challenging.
And that seeking support is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Exactly. So it's interesting how the book goes from all that to talking about technology.
Yeah, it's like it brings us back to the modern world.
It acknowledges that technology has completely changed dating, for better or worse.
Yeah, there are definitely two sides to that coin.
For sure. It talks about dating apps.
Which, they're convenient.
Super convenient. But the book points out how they can lead to these really superficial connections.
And the focus on instant gratification.
Yeah, the Tinder effect, it calls it.
I've heard that term before.
It's like you're just swiping through people based on looks.
Right, and it can make it harder to form those deeper connections.
The kind we really crave, yeah.
It also warns about the dangers of online dating, like catfishing and scam.
Yeah, and even cyber stalking.
It can get pretty scary.
It can. You gotta be careful out there.
Then it gets into the whole digital intimacy thing, like sexting and sharing nude.
That's a whole other can of worms.
It acknowledges the excitement, but also the risks.
Yeah, things can get out of hand pretty quickly.
And it encourages being open with your partner about boundaries and expectations.
Communication is key, always.
The book also touches on open relationship and polyamory.
Oh, interesting.
It presents them as alternative relationship models that are becoming more accepted.
Which they are, but it also highlights the challenges.
Like jealousy and insecurity.
And the need for really clear communication and boundaries.
Yeah, you got to be on the same page.
If you're going to make that kind of arrangement work.
And then it talks about cross-cultural relationships,
which are becoming more and more common these days.
It emphasizes the importance of understanding and respecting those cultural differences.
Yeah, and being willing to compromise.
It even talks about how globalization has impacted divorce rates.
Oh, really? How so?
It suggests that as countries become more interconnected, traditional values and relationship structures can be challenged.
Leading to more divorces.
That's the idea.
It's an interesting perspective.
So we've covered a lot, but the book really circles back to communication
As being the most important thing.
for any successful relationship.
Yeah, it stresses clear, honest communication, using I statements,
Yeah.
listening to each other,
And avoiding those negative communication patterns.
like blaming and criticizing.
Yeah, or shutting down emotion,
It's about creating that safe space for open dialogue.
where both partners feel heard and respected,
And it emphasizes the importance of understanding your partner's communication style.
because we don't all express ourselves in the same way.
Right. And it encourages men to pay attention to nonverbal cues, too.
Because actions speak louder than words sometimes.
Exactly.
Then there's this whole section on emotional intelligence.
Okay, that's a big one.
The book sees it as crucial for a healthy relationship.
It's not just about understanding your own emotions, right?
No, it's about recognizing and responding to your partner's feelings with empathy.
So being able to put yourself in their shoes.
Exactly. And it encourages men to develop this skill by practicing active listening,
Validating their partner's emotions.
being aware of their own emotional triggers.
Good stuff.
It even gives some practical tips, like using phrases like, I see you're upset,
Even if you don't agree with them, it's about acknowledging their feelings,
validating their experience.
which can build trust and intimacy.
Then the book gets into this really cool concept of love languages.
Oh, I love that concept.
It explains how people express and experience love in different ways.
The 5 love languages, right?
Exact words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, receiving gifts.
And the book encourages couples to figure out each other's primary love language.
So you can show your love in a way that they'll actually appreciate.
That makes so much sense.
It also stresses the importance of physical intimacy
Making it a regular part of your lives.
and being open about your needs and desires.
That's so important.
The book acknowledges that every relationship is going to face challenges.
It's inevitable.
It talks about the importance of resilience.
Bouncing back from those tough times.
It encourages couples to see challenges as opportunities for growth,
And to develop healthy ways of resolving conflict.
like staying calm, listening to each other, finding a compromise.
It's about working together as a team.
And it recommends seeking professional help if you're struggling.
Sometimes you need that outside perspective
So there you have it. We've unpacked a lot of this book's advice.
on dating, relationships, personal growth.
It definitely presents a unique perspective,
Sometimes controversial.
but I think it offers some good food for thought.
Definitely. It makes you think.
What resonated with you? What challenged your beliefs?
I think that's the value of a deep dive like this, exploring different ideas.
Even if they push us out of our comfort zone.
If you're interested in learning more, you can find the book on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
Until next time, keep diving deep.